Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be while you're viewing this broadcast. This is the Sports Foundation Network, and we are super excited to be in the room with you today. And why? Because you are a winner. And what do winners do? Winners win. So we are here to win today. I have along with me my co-host, Coach Eric Reed, Sr., and we got some information for you today. Ain't that right, Reed?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, good morning, good day, good night. Whenever all of that plus some. And here's something that I want everyone to know. They're observing this podcast overseas right now. Okay, so understand that we have just in a short period of time have left Louisiana and taken a flight all the way to, Europe. Which also indicates that, we're growing, and the information that we present today.
Yes. Woo! Yes. All I can tell them is put the seatbelt on.
Put the
seatbelt on.
Put your seatbelts on.
You got all your. Turn the movie off because you need to pay attention.
Pay attention. And you know what about paying attention? That's free. You just gotta listen.
Yes.
But we got here's the thing. I'm sorry, but this gentleman here, Mr. Allen, Mr. Greg Allen. I can't wait to have everyone understand how we hooked up. You got to tell you got to tell us. I can't.
You can't tell it.
I can't tell it.
It's an interesting
not yet.
story.
Not yet. We got to lead up into that.
Okay,
one.
gotcha.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, brother,
Mr. Allen, we are super excited to have you in, like I said, in this winner circle, because you're a winner, sir. And I know you got a lot of information, and I want to sit at your feet and learn some stuff today. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly a pleasure for me to be here, Angela, and with you, Coach Reed. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience and to your guests. I've been looking forward to it. And looking forward to sharing some information and ideas and kicking around some things about our community. So I'm really excited to be here this morning.
Absolutely.
Grand rising to all of your audience and all of the listeners. Thank you for joining us. And it's certainly a pleasure for me to be here.
Absolutely.
Roger that. Yeah, look. I'm going to drop some of the ingredients to the hookup.
Okay.
I'm scrolling through Facebook, which I don't do very often. I call myself the cyber cop. I'm always looking for information, someone that's got something different to say, whether I agree or disagree. But this brother threw something out there that's like, I had to respond. And homeboy came back. I'm like, we got to take this someplace else. Because I've heard a lot of rhetoric from folks and who mean well but don't have the juice to get it going. This brother here had some juice, and it was matching my juice. And I'm like, okay, let's see if we can get some place where we can see if the ingredients that fire our engine match. And we're here right now.
Yeah. Actually, I think the post that you're referring to, my comment was that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of defending. And I thought that we needed an offensive strategy. And I certainly do think that it is time for us to stop reacting to all of the negative things that are happening in our community and to start to try and put together our own plan for offensive action. There are a great number of things that we can do as a community, as individuals, as organizations, that I think we're reluctant to do in some instances, and in other instances we just haven't put ourselves in a position to do those things. So our conversation started with that, and with I guess you could call it a challenge from Coach Reed to, well, if you're serious about what you're saying, then let's meet. And that conversation led to a second meeting where we had an opportunity to explore some of the ideas that I had for promoting growth in the community. He shared with me many of the things, or some of the things that he and his foundation were working on. And I guess the rest, as they say, is history. We're here today to try and kick around some of those ideas and share them with your listeners in hopes that they will have input as well, and will be able to share with us some of their ideas, and to actually feel some of the ideas that we have and see if they think they're beneficial to them in their lives as well.
Right.
And
What would be, I'm sorry, what would be a key strategy?
Hold
I
on.
don't want you to lose it. Go ahead.
You know how,
I know.
that elevator sometimes don't want to take a ride on its own. But here's the thing. Offensively, we are being offensive in ways that are detrimental to us. We're going to stop trying and get that out of our language. We ain't going to do no more trying. The days of trying is over. We doing it. And that's the bottom line. That changes energy.
Right.
No, I'm sorry.
And to piggyback off what you just said, this bus is moving. The wheels on the bus go round and round.
Right.
The bus is moving. The train is moving. Right. And guess what? It's to the point, like you said, trying is over with. Doing. You either get off the couch, get off whatever it is that you're doing, and get on this train because it's moving. And it's moving to a speed where, honestly, we can't slow it down. So you gotta run. You know how the trains be moving, and the train be running and jumping on the train. Okay, you gotta run and jump. Let's go.
And see, Brother Allen, this is what impressed me, that made me continue to pursue meeting you. Okay. I live and die with my beliefs, so much so I volunteered. And once I was in uniform, anytime we were headed, there was any place to go that nobody wanted to go, I volunteered. I like action. I don't like to sit around and not do anything. But it has to be purposeful. It has to have an objective, a meaning, something that's greater than me, something that I would be willing to give everything I got to accomplish it. And those kinds of folks are starting to show up. It's not a lot, but you don't need a lot. All you need is a few. Actually, God says all you need is one, and then I forget the number, but some of us who understand what comes after that. But as you create a synergistic unity, where one can only accomplish a smaller number of accomplishments. Where you add two, now you can multiply that. I forget what the math is, but it's something that doesn't make sense, but that's the energy behind it. And I think what you've done is provided for us a map. We got the train. We done laid the track. Where we going?
Right.
How we gonna get there?
Yes.
We need the fuel. We gotta buy snacks and food and all that kind
All
of
that
stuff.
good stuff.
Well, I totally agree with you. I think that you make a valid point when you say the time is now and the bus is already moving. I think that in the days that we're living in now, if you have not perceived a need to move, to take action, then something's got to be missing from your perception of what life is and what's happening around us. We've procrastinated for so long, and I think that we've become dormant in our actions because we've gotten so comfortable, comfortable in a discomforting way, if you will, because many of the things that are happening in our community now, many of the things that are happening in the larger society are things that unless we have some form of pushback, unless we actively address those things, they can only get worse. So my philosophy is that if you have to find a good time to take action, now would be that time. What I'm hopeful is that we as a community can start to work on trying to put this offensive plan together as a unit. And I think that we often confuse the idea of unity with unification, or the idea of unity with being synonymous with everybody being in the same lockstep. We don't necessarily have to be that way in order to be successful accomplishing things. So my goal, and it has been my goal for the last several years, is to try and unite with other like-minded individuals like yourself, like the Sports Foundation, to try and implement some of these ideas so that we can start to see some forward momentum or some progress, not just among the elite within our community, but within the larger community. I think for so long we have focused on a top-down approach, and how can those of us with information, with the capacity to do big things, we've focused on trying to communicate with those individuals as opposed to working from the bottom up. Those people who need our help most are the people who are hovering at the bottom, or perceive themselves as hovering at the bottom. I think a great deal of it is in perception, what we perceive to be our problems. And I think a great deal of it also has to deal with how we perceive those problems.
Exactly.
But most of what I believe needs to happen within the community starts between our ears. It starts with a philosophy of the ability to do, and our capability to get things done. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with other individuals and organizations like the Sports Foundation. And I have been really impressed with the sheer number of other organizations and agencies within the Baton Rouge community that are capable of doing this work, but just haven't had the motivation to do it. So going back to what you said, I think that it is an exciting time for action. I think that we are long overdue when it comes to implementing many of the strategies that we've talked about. And I'm just eager and excited to get started with some of that work.
You know, I have to say this because out of respect, I know the era you came through here in Baton Rouge. Everybody doesn't know your past. You know that the journey you've taken, you and your wife have taken, and a respectful journey. But I always want, because I dabbled in as a young, 5-6-year-old. I was in the residue part of y'all's run through here. But tell us something about you and what has brought you to this. You're like a deep, cool, thirst feeling water from a man or people who've been walking in the desert and they've just come across an oasis.
That's very, very kind of you. You make me sound quite old, Coach Reed.
Why?
Well, a little bit of history about myself. I am a native of Baton Rouge. I grew up and spent my early years in West Baton Rouge Parish. My grandparents were farmers. I come from a little town just west of Baton Rouge called Winterville. Most people will not, most of your viewers and listeners will not know where Winterville is, but it's somewhere between the foot of the old Mississippi River Bridge and Irwinville. But I spent my early childhood on the farm. I moved into North Baton Rouge, into Scotlandville in the early 1960s. during a time when most people who lived in Scotlandville would have probably identified it or recognized it as Baton Rouge's Black Wall Street. It was a thriving, active community that had all of the amenities within the community that we needed to survive, but probably the most important element of the Scotlandville community when I was growing up there was community itself. I grew up in an era in Scotlandville where everybody knew everybody. All of the parents raised all of the children. All of the teachers that taught at our elementary and high schools and junior high schools lived in the community. We were truly a village raising children. So I came up during an era when I had the benefit of experiencing that type of community relationship with all of my neighbors, and they all became my friends. I graduated from Scotlandville High School, the proud class of 1972, and from there went to Southern University, where I studied marketing. In my junior year of college, I started a job as a part-time teller at one of the larger banks here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana National Bank. During that experience, I had the opportunity to join the bank's management training program. This was at a time when the idea of affirmative action, what most people refer to in today's world as DEI, when affirmative action was originally introduced, of course, banks and many other corporations throughout America began to recruit blacks to work in their organizations, and I was fortunate to be able to work with Louisiana National Bank in their management training program. I came through that program and had the wonderful opportunity to manage the branch bank in the neighborhood that I grew up in.
Wow, okay.
So I managed at the Scotlandville branch of Louisiana National Bank for approximately 8 years, and moved from the bank actually to an opportunity in the then governor's office. At that time, Louisiana elected its first Republican governor since Reconstruction. His name was David Treen. Dave Treen gave me an opportunity to pursue commercial lending for small businesses throughout the state of Louisiana in a program called the Louisiana Minority Business Development Authority, or LAMDA. I ran that program for the state of Louisiana throughout his gubernatorial tenure, and left that program to go to work for the Louisiana Department of Commerce. But through all of these experiences, I was fortunate enough or blessed enough to have the opportunity to interface with other black leaders in the state of Louisiana, to be mentored by many of those leaders, to have deep and meaningful conversations with many of them. But also to be inspired to do things for my community. So I spent the majority of my life and professional career in pursuit of economic development and financial development for minority communities. My experiences here in Baton Rouge took me to Atlanta. So in 1989, I packed my family up. I had 2 small children. My wife, who's an educator, decided that we wanted to try in a larger community with a few more opportunities. So we moved our family to Atlanta in 1989, and I've spent the last 38 years there. But I also worked in minority business development in the city of Atlanta, for Fulton County, which is Atlanta's largest county and the county that encompasses Metro Atlanta, and raised my children there. But after a long and successful career, decided that it was time for me to come home.
Mm-hmm.
I was always taught by my grandfather that life flows in 3 stages. First, you learn, then you earn, then you give.
Mm-hmm.
So I've reached a stage in my life where this is my giving stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't think of any place better or any people more worthy of giving to than the people in my hometown, in my home state.
Mm-hmm.
So about 3 years ago, my wife and I decided that we'd start to make the move back to Baton Rouge for our retirement years. Though neither of us have retired, she's still very active in social activities and nonprofits here in Baton Rouge, as am I. And as we've grown back into the Baton Rouge community, I've had the good fortune of meeting people like you, Coach Reed, and of course Angela, and just started to hit the ground running with projects and activities and opportunities to try and strengthen our community and build on some of the things that I know some of the younger people and organizations in Baton Rouge are doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, and that Facebook conversation we had, I sensed that kind of energy coming at me from the words. It's one thing that my mother, she's a retired teacher, but she always insisted that we read enough to be able to comprehend. But back then, I know you might remember, we had to diagram sentences.
Right.
With the lines with the legs and the legs on the legs and the this and the that, So I sensed in our dialogue that you had been brought up in English class the same way I had been brought up, understanding how to utilize the King's English to articulate complex thoughts into simple words that people can understand. And I think that's a gift, that many leaders, so-called leaders, don't have. Right. They throw a whole lot of words at you, and it becomes a word salad. But what are you really saying? I got what you're saying. I understand exactly where you're coming from. Right. And for us to get somewhere beyond where we've been, hovering at a standstill, marking time, having a good time while we're marking time, but it's time to, put some of that good time away, that energy, and focus on a target. And I think you've come, where our conversations have led me to believe that you brought a target for us to aim at. We got a whole bunch of arrows, a lot of warriors, and there's some chieftains around here that's ready to go do something. But it's like,
where do I start?
It's like there's so much. Yeah.
Well, I must confess that I grew up in an educator's household. My mother was a teacher as well.
Okay.
And of course, my wife is a guidance counselor.
Okay.
So
yeah.
For the vast majority of my life, I've been surrounded by educators. But the one thing that I learned from my mother, even at a young age, was that the ability to explain one's self well would give you the opportunity to advance as far as you wanted to go. And she also stressed the importance of reading.
Yes.
So, I was a country boy. I grew up in the middle of the country, among the sugarcane fields and cotton fields. And my mother we would always ask her when we could go. Where were we going? And she would always tell us that, well, if you learn to read, you can go anywhere you want to go, anytime you want to go. So reading was always a very big part of my life, even as a young child. And it's something that I've embraced for the majority of my life. So I'm very pleased to hear you say that. that I do have those tendencies, but I get them honestly. My wife also checks me on it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Check. Yes.
It takes a team.
Yes,
It takes a team.
It does.
You know, and how long have you and your wife been married?
My wife and I have been married for 49 years.
Wow.
We're about to crack the 50-year mark.
Wow. When is the anniversary?
The anniversary is July 16th.
Wow.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, right down the street. Yeah,
July
yeah.
16th.
Well, hey, that's awesome. 49 years. That's beautiful,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Speaks volumes.
It really does. And it's an example. It's an example. And look, I've been married 36 years, and I know all them 36 ain't been good.
And I'm 30.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So marriage is work.
At its highs and its lows.
Yeah.
Well, marriage, like anything else, is a journey.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
And the key, I think, or what makes it livable is the person you choose to take that journey with.
Exactly.
I've been blessed in that I've had a wonderful partner and friend and colleague for the 50 years that we've been together. As I said, we met in college, and so we've grown up together.
Yeah.
We raised our two adult children together, who are still in Georgia, in Atlanta. But God blessed me with a great partner. Gave me the opportunity to have somebody who'd be in the trenches with me. So I can only hope that for our young listeners that they would be able to find somebody in their lives who would anchor their lives as my wife has anchored mine.
Yeah. Hey, look. I'm not a tabloid person, but this is a Sports Foundation Network podcast, so I'm gonna put on that hat. Who approached who in college?
Actually, I approached her. Well, no. She approached me.
Whoa!
I was actually introduced to my wife by one of my high school classmates.
Okay.
They were classmates at Southern, and we met each other or would see each other daily as we walked between classes. I would speak to my classmate. She was always with my wife, but I'd say hello and we'd keep walking. So one day, my classmate came to me and told me, "Hey, my friend wants to meet you." And we met, and the rest is history.
Wow. Boy, that says a whole lot.
Right.
Women know what they want.
And ain't ashamed to let it know.
In this instance, I guess so.
Mr. Miles, you have written a book, Investing in Us.
Yes.
Tell us about the book. I'm an author.
Okay.
And I love reading. I love writing. But I like seeing or hearing other people's perspectives on the other side of the fence. So I want to hear about investing in us.
Okay. First, I'll tell you what inspired me to write the book. Over the course of my career in business and finance, one of the principal issues among young African American entrepreneurs or prospective entrepreneurs was their lack of ability to receive funding. Or how I want to start a business, but how do I start the business? I don't have the money to start the business. How do I raise the money to start the business? If you know anything about finance, and most of us do, most of us have had our financial struggles, then you know the ability for us to walk into a financial institution and secure the type of funding that's needed to start a business is a little bit less available to some of our people than it is to others. During the course of my career, and particularly after I moved to Atlanta, I discovered that there was a self-funding mechanism that many immigrant entrepreneurs use to fund and start businesses. So I started to research that process. The process is referred to by many different names. Most people in the Caribbean, Jamaican community refer to it as susu. But the formal name for that process is rotating savings and credit associations. Rotating credit and savings associations are hundreds of years old and have been utilized by cultures around the world for decades. And what it essentially does or essentially means is that you partner with a group of like-minded individuals. You pool your resources, no matter how big or small those resources are, and that each one of the individuals in your group has an opportunity to take a lump sum of cash. I'll give you an example of how this process works for, let's say, entrepreneurs in the Hispanic community. In larger metropolitan areas, lawn maintenance and lawn services are a multi-million dollar business. What Hispanics will do, or people from the Hispanic community will do, is they will form a group, a savings group. This is essentially a private savings and loan organization. But you form a group with your family and friends. And each week, individuals within that group contribute a set amount of money. Let's say it's $20. You have 5 people in your group, and each of the members in your group agree to contribute $20 a week. By the end of the week, you've created a $100 fund. And I'm using low numbers now so that you can realize the effectiveness of this process, no matter how much money you've got. We have literally managed programs for individuals who've taken their lottery money that they use to play the lottery every week. We've also done it with barbers and with waiters. But it doesn't matter how much money you have. The key to making the process work is consistency. So each of the 5 members will contribute $20 a week to the general fund. At the end of the week, one member of the fund takes the entire $100. The other members of the group are still obligated to make the $20 contribution every week until each of the 5 members has an opportunity to withdraw the $100 fund. They then use that $100 to create a business opportunity. Now, as I said, I used a relatively small amount in the $20 example, but imagine if you did that with $1,000. Imagine if it was your family and 4 people within the household worked, and you decided that your family would contribute $1,000 a week between the 4 of you, and you partnered with 5 other families. Now I've got a pool of $5,000 to go start that same business. Well, with $5,000, I can buy a trailer, I can buy a walk-behind mower, a blower, and an edger. Now I'm in business. Once I start that business, then the business produces my $1,000 a week. I no longer have to put that out of my pocket or make the family combine their income to do it. I can produce the $1,000 that's necessary for me to put into the pool every week. Everybody in the pool receives the same $5,000 payout. Now I've got 5 families with 5 businesses that are all revenue generating businesses, and we start the pool over again. Being able to do that, being able to scale those susus or roscas or tandas is what Hispanics refer to them as. Indians refer to them as jittis. But being able to utilize this process is what allows individuals to build that nest egg that they need to start a business. You no longer at this point need the bank or the credit union. And as I said, we've been able to implement this process with individuals at the lowest financial level.
let me ask this question. Hold that thought.
Sure.
So, if that individual is given that $5,000 opportunity to start the business, so is there any interest on that paid back
No.
to the group? It's
No,
not.
there's no interest paid back to the group. Now, many groups utilize what is called a susu banker, someone to manage the pay-in and payouts of the fund. Some people do it within the family. In traditional susus in Africa, that individual is usually the tribal elder.
Okay.
It is somebody that is well trusted within the community and somebody that they know will protect the fund and will fairly distribute the money as it is intended to be distributed. In my book, Investing in Us, I recommend that you utilize what is considered a susu banker. It is someone outside of your immediate group. But it is also a trusted individual, someone that you can rely upon to manage the funds properly and to disperse them properly. And the reason that I recommend that in the book is because it is so difficult. There's often controversy in trying to manage a susu. There are different methodologies for disbursements of the funds. Some people use what's called a lottery. Some people have a random drawing to decide. Some people decide that we will give the money on a need basis. Whomever in my group needs the money most this month, then they'll receive the lump sum payment. But there are different processes that can be used for distribution of the money. I have literally had groups of young junior high school students that have started susus with their allowances. You can literally start a susu with a group of friends or relatives with $10. There are businesses that can be started for less than $300. I have junior high school students that have started susus and created screen printing businesses for T-shirts that have taken those T-shirt businesses into their college years. So there are no limit. The thing that I think makes the Rotating Savings and Credit Association process so powerful is the fact that you can start from little or nothing. You can build the susu as big as you want it. But the key to involving yourself in a Rotating Savings and Credit Association program is your utilization of the funds. And we talked about the ground up approach, being able to help those individuals that are at the bottom of the economic spectrum. You know, what we recommend in our book is that you start from that ground level by building yourself an emergency fund. Over 80% of working Americans have less than $500 saved for an emergency. In our community, that number is probably more relevant than in most. But we tell our investors, if you will, start with building your own emergency fund. You know, get with 5 of your neighbors, 5 or 4 of your relatives, 4 of your close friends, your sorority sisters, your fraternity brothers, and start with a small fund to generate a $500 nest egg. Now, once you've gotten that $500, it's not a lot of money, but it's more than you had if you don't have a nest egg. You know, it's more than enough to buy 2 tires for my car if I have 2 flats and I can't get to work. So that nest egg, I think, is very important. And what it does for the individual at the lower end of the economic spectrum is it teaches you the value of savings and how easy it is to save with people you can trust. But it also helps you to align yourself with people you can trust.
Yes.
Something that we have a very difficult time with in our community.
Yeah.
So it also creates that family linkage that I was telling you about when I grew up in Scotlandville, and how all of those individuals in the community relied on each other. You know, we talk often about Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street was Azusa. We talk about other areas where successful communities were built. Sweet Auburn in Atlanta. There's another town in Florida that escapes my mind right now. But all of these places were built on the power of community investment and community investment with each other. Cooperative economics or cooperative finance is how these businesses were funded. Yeah. So if we can get back to that principle where we rely on each other for the financial gains that we need to make, I think that we can make substantial progress.
I agree. And again, for me, I love what you look. That's why we're here. we're mapping out a strategy.
Yes.
Okay, we have an objective, but we need the strategy. But the soldiers I got behind me, that's coming with me, you know, they need to know that try ain't a word, and if don't work. Because if ain't an action word, it's like, hey, look, we're gonna talk about this. If the weather break, we're gonna go and do something. But if the fish ain't biting, we'll come back later.
Well, as my grandfather always said, if is a poor horse to ride.
Really?
Wow. But just the value, Eric, of the well of information that I was telling the people about to you know, just come and sit at the feet and learn from someone across the table. You know, you may have some that, hey, I don't think I want to connect because I don't know as much as. Right. That's when you come to the table to learn. I need to know this.
We'll catch the next bus.
Yeah, catch the next bus. Because the wheels on the bus is turning.
Right.
We got another bus coming, y'all.
And you can't be afraid to learn either.
Yes.
I think a lot of us are just afraid to be exposed to new ideas, and we've been indoctrinated to think that we can't. We're surrounded by negative images, negative voices that tell us all the time how poor we are.
Right. You can't do it.
We can't do it. You know, we have literally fooled ourselves into believing that we deserve to be disrespected. You know, we become addicted to being disrespected. And until we recognize the power that we have, both individually and collectively for ourselves, we won't be able to break out of that rut. My goal is to teach young people, particularly, you know, a lot of the things that we're doing now, we can do it a lot better if we do it together. But this individualized idea that we have that, you know, well, I'm going to make it, and, you know, I got mine. I hope you get yours.
I call it me, my foe, and no more.
Exactly.
You know, we got to get out of that mindset.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And these programs, the Rotating Savings and Credit Associations, the SUSUs, it's designed to do exactly that, to bring us back together. We talk about this process, and I'll shut up about it after I make this comment. But
don't shut up.
When we talk about this process, what we don't realize is that while we utilize it to build small businesses into medium-sized businesses and larger businesses, it's been utilized by gangsters for decades.
Yeah, I recognize the mafia plan. You were telling me, I'm saying that's what the mafia did. I mean, you know.
It's been utilized by gangsters for decades. Yeah. And you know, many of the sets and these younger people that are listening to the program will understand what a set is.
Yeah.
But many sets in many of these big cities are utilizing the same programs as well to get out of the game.
Okay.
So it can be effective no matter who utilizes it, but it's designed for you to accumulate a lump sum of capital so that you can do greater things.
Check. And at the end of the day, brother, you know, the army that we're putting together, we're going to need a lot of energy. And it's going to have to come from some sources that we are going to have to figure out where they're coming from. And I think that's a start.
Yes.
It really is.
And a lot of times, everything that we need is already in the house.
It's in the house. And,
Exactly.
You know, and I'm going the first drop we made, I mentioned I wasn't going to take the lid off, but I'm going to let everybody peep into the stew that we're putting together. And I'm going to say this, and I think this is the camera. I'm talking to everybody that's here, listening, that's going to listen, that's going to see this. We're going to rebuild North Baton Rouge. Let me say that again. We are rebuilding North Baton Rouge. That's the objective.
Brick by brick by brick.
For real. Now, you
rock
guys
by
can...
rock by rock.
That's right.
You can join us, or you can watch us do it, but it's going to happen. Thank you, brother. That's what this brother told me in that little time that we Facebook. I was like, okay, let's see what he's talking about. And I need a wingman. You need a wingman. We got angels around here. Blue Dream Angels.
That's right.
Oh yeah, we rolling. We rolling.
I'm excited about it.
As am I.
I am excited because I know that nothing but greatness and goodness is coming out of the mixture. I don't know everything. Eric doesn't know everything. I don't know you.
I don't know everything.
But when we come to the table and bring our time, our talent, and our resources to the table, oh my God. What things are going to transpire in North Baton Rouge? You know, all of the things that we talked about. I'm not going to reveal everything. You know, you took the lid off some of it, but the things that we are going to do, that we are doing, hey, it's going to be some eyebrow raising. Where y'all come from? How this happened? We told you this train was moving.
Yeah. You know, and there has to be a vision, you know. And I tell you, Brother Allen, you know, your vision, it's not like you invented something out of clear air. You did the work. It was already there. You just pulled it all together and made sense out of it all. And from your conversation initially with me, as you began to, you know, unwrap the gift, you know, my degree is in economics, so I began to understand immediately what you were talking about. And there's a term that I learned years ago in economics. It's called the multiplier effect, where we have violated that principle. And I'll explain it for those who don't understand. The multiplier effect is basically the principle of the susu, where you take $1, we use $1 that I earn shining shoes, okay? And instead of me leaving my community to go buy me a popsicle, I go outside my community to where my cousin Eric lives, okay, in St. George, and I love you, St. George. Eric lives over there, to buy my popsicle and come back eating my popsicle back in my community. I didn't help anybody out. So that the multiplier effect talks about how many times that dollar rotates in your community. You know, a plant worker. Back in 96, when I was doing the research, a plant worker's salary, the multiplier effect affected 7 other people, 7 other incomes. So we have become more sophisticated in our ability to teach the complex parts of financial institution, okay, to our people. I think we're ready now. Some of those sets have taught economics to themselves. Right. So they're ready now to understand the higher form of it.
And they know it better than most.
Yes.
Let me tell you, they know it better than most.
Yeah, yeah. And look, you know, brothers, sisters, out there doing what you're doing because you had to, or you've gotten caught up in it. Hey, there's always time to come out of the cold and the darkness to join the light, because what you've done can be put to use in a positive way. And that's all we're talking about, man. It's time to put all that other stuff up, you know, and we have to come together at this point because, you know, you look around you, you know, we've allowed certain things to occur because of complacency and a desire to want to survive in the struggle, you know, and there's nothing wrong with the survival, but we're starting to commit cultural suicide, and we can't do that. We know we got to stop being at war with each other and figure out how to dissipate the differences. And the differences are simple stuff. I mean, you know, it's like, hey, come on, man. You know, your girlfriend, bruh, creating that, come on, dog. You know, that ain't even necessary, bruh. You know, and leave that alone, because there's a bigger issue out there. A bigger issue. And I don't want to...
We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We can come to the table. Let's talk. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. And I have to say this, because I was talking trash earlier. You know, Gil Scott-Heron is someone that I grew up, you know, following. Right. And for those that don't know, look him up. He was, to me, a folk song writer and performer. And he had a heroin addiction, you know, but his words were just powerful words. He said, and you might remember some of the lyrics, you know, the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. And I'm going to add, no, it won't be. It's just going to be streamed on the Sports Foundation Network
right
podcast.
That part right there. Yes.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can certainly live with that.
Yeah. So where are we now? Are we tired right now?
Yeah.
Are we tired right now? You tired?
No, I'm not tired.
Okay.
I'm by no means tired.
There it is.
We're going to take a commercial break. Okay. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back at you.
Good deal.
Right here on the Sports Foundation Network.
Check. This is where we need, you know.
Call Bloom. You can call Bloom. Call Bloom. You can call Bloom.
UEDC, which is my nonprofit, the Urban Enterprise Development Collaborative, manages SUSUs for organizations and groups. And we manage them through our nonprofit because we want individuals to realize that it is, in fact, an effective nonprofit process. Now, we assess a 1% fee for management of the SUSU. So if your SUSU pays out $10,000 a month, then we get 1% of that as a management fee or as your SUSU banker. You see? But yeah, I've attempted to give this version to pastors, but there's not enough meat on the bone in here. I have a chapter in there about church roscas, but it's a small chapter on church roscas. What I want to do is to be more explanatory to them for some of the things that they can accomplish via the Rosca process. And that requires that they see a broader case study and they have a little bit more dialogue on how to set up the Rosca. But I think I mentioned to you the thing that I tried to sell them on creating millionaires in their church. Churches, nonprofit organizations can enroll in group insurance programs just like corporations do. You know, like you go to work for UPS and UPS says, well, we'll give you a life insurance policy. And all the while you're working for them, you got life insurance. Well, I tried to convince the ministers that for their tithing members, and first of all, enroll in a corporate insurance program. And then for your tithing members who give 10%, you take 10% of their 10% and pay their insurance premium. The member gets $1 million insurance premium, and then when they decide to go to glory, their family gets $1 million. And you could have millionaire church members galore. And if they're tithing members, they probably give 10% of their $1 million back to the church. So the church would thrive as well. But I can't buy a big old house on if I'm giving away 10% of my tithe.
You know, yeah.
Especially if I'm in a mega church.
Right.
You know, I had to pay for this rose, man.
Yeah.
Now, smaller churches may do it or may embrace the concept of, you know, and it doesn't have to be $1 million policy. It could be a $500,000 policy. You know, you're only talking, if I'm tithing once a month, 10% of my income, then 10% of that 10% is really a pimple on a gnat's ass.
You know? There's so many different, this is how I explain it. We have a model that got our parents to get us to this point. The model needs to be rearranged, and that's what we're doing now, rearranging the model. So nothing's changed. The brick and mortar hasn't changed. You know, you're going to build a brick house, you need bricks and you need mortar. That ain't changed. But you can change the configuration of the house. You can make an addition, or you can, you know, do whatever. We, in my estimation, are rearranging, putting together a new configuration of the tools that we have as a community. So my next question, are we recording?
No, we're getting ready to go back on.
Okay.
I think we had two,
this
3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Oh, you
good.
did? Okay. Okay, cool.
Good, because what I'm about to say now is an action plan.
Okay.
We should not leave today without a plan of action, at least for the next couple of weeks. You know, I know we have a meeting schedule on Thursday at the cafe that we met before. And we also have Fred Reed that's supposed to be coming.
Right.
Getting you guys hooked up. Pastor Cowan, I hope, shows up, and we need to, you know, push him to come because it's a very important meeting. There's a young captain from the Nation of Islam that I want to try and get there. We should have our team from the Sports Foundation Network should be in attendance. You know,
well, that was one of the comments that I was going to make when you said about we have our approach to accomplishing these things, but we need to modernize that plan. A big part of that is including these gentlemen and including the people who are going to be carrying that torch. They need to be able to be on the ground floor of what's going on as well. But I think that it's important that we be able to relate to them how they can benefit from some of the things that we're doing. I think that it would be somewhat short-sighted today to try and hammer out a strategy or to try and set up a plan. But what I will tell you is that the approach that has been effective for me over the years has been to initially start any process with a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, for those of you who are not familiar, is an assessment tool. SWOT is an acronym, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I do a personal SWOT analysis for myself at the beginning of every year. But whenever I endeavor to create a business or a plan or a strategy, it starts with that SWOT analysis. So I think that's something that we can look forward to maybe doing. And we can start that process on Thursday.
Check. That's a good starting point.
We can let those individuals who come to the meeting, make them aware of the fact that this process begins with a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths? What are some of the weaknesses that we have as an organization or a group or a community? What are our threats? And we can see a lot of them coming at us, but a lot of them we can't. We have to anticipate what those threats are, and we have to prepare for them. And what are our opportunities? You know, the opportunities are vast.
For real.
It has been my observation and my explanation to everybody that I've talked to, that it's a gazillion dollars to be made just redoing our things.
Really? Really?
You don't have to go no further than your own neighborhood to see that it's $1 billion to be made just making our lives right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are the light.
That's right.
On the hill.
That's right. That's right.
You know, we just need to stoke the fire so the light shines brighter. You know, and that's the goal. The goal is to stoke that fire. Yes. We know that our neighborhoods have been neglected. We know that the tax dollars are being spent on the other side of I-12 and I-10. But we can continue to ask people to do what needs to be done, or we can form our own army and clean our own curves and gutters, cut our own grass, pick up our own trash, whatever is required for us to live like we deserve to live. We have the capacity to do that. And I'm going to tell you something. You know the old slogan, the pen is greater than the sword? I guarantee you, if you start editorializing some of these people who neglect you, they'll stop neglecting you. Because nobody wants to look bad, man.
I know.
You know?
I know. And
especially if you're in a position of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the mayor's responsibility to give equal treatment to all of the neighborhoods in the city, you got street sweepers in communities on the other side of the interstate, but you never sweep a street over here. I guarantee you, if I get 500 people out here cleaning up streets for themselves and put it in the newspaper, you're going to feel bad about yourself.
I tell you, we've got, and then we have to train our kids. You know, it's like, for instance, I grew up. Dad was an electrician. You know, I didn't pick that trade up. I've done the work, but I didn't get certified. So but we need to get to a point where apprenticeship programs. Why? I'm not waiting for the municipal funding to fund a program that, you know, I've got bricklayers and concrete guys that work with concrete and, you know, just work with their hands. We need to get guys. Everybody doesn't need to go to college. Everybody doesn't want to go to college. There's some people who want to work with their hands, you know, and do the work that other folks need, but don't even realize they need it till they need it.
Right.
Plumbing, roofing, electrician, you know. HVAC. Those are, man, look.
And you're talking about jobs now that pay well into the six figures.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I don't think that we reckon, or a lot of kids don't recognize that they have the capacity to make that kind of money doing that type of work.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of them who do. I'm very impressed with the charter school system that Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge has. They have skill sets that they're teaching in school: robotics, electronics, computer science, law, a number of fields. What we don't have, though, is, I agree with you, we don't have hands-on skills. And that's something that I think that we should pursue as a part of that strategy. You know, but you have to have, you have to put real numbers to those things. How many are we going to get? It is also important to understand, you know, we play with these buzzwords and we get hung up on them when we don't really have a true understanding for what they mean. People talk about building sustainable communities, but what to you is sustainability? You know, sustainable to me is not attracting a grocery store that could decide tomorrow they're going to close and leave.
That's right.
I still can't feed myself.
Right.
Sustainable to me is creating community gardens where I grow my own food, and if every grocery store leave, I'm gonna still eat.
Right.
You know, sustainable to me is building a bakery so I can bake my own bread.
Break your bread, yeah.
And I can hire the people in my community to bake that bread.
The bread, yep.
You know, but we get caught up in these, as I said, terminology and phraseology about how things work and what sustainability is. I'm really trying to build sustainable, self-encompassed communities. You know, if they cut my water off, there's a gentleman now that creates water from air.
Yeah.
You know, he's a nonprofit as well.
Mm-hmm.
Moses.
Yeah.
Moses builds air or water production devices that, you know, if I get 2 units in Scotlandville, you can cut the water off. A part of the North Baton Rouge redevelopment plan is to turn the old landfill into a solar farm. And that solar farm would power the university and all of the homes in the Scotlandville community. But the plan has been dormant for 10 years, 10, 12 years. You know, why aren't we pursuing development of that solar farm?
That's a good question.
Those are things that we can do. And there's money out there to do it.
You know, it's like, forgive me, brother, and forgive me, whoever's watching that don't know me. Y'all about to find out who I am, okay? You know, it's about action. You know, 12 years of sitting on your butt and playing politics or, you know, and this and that, them days over with. They are over, you know? And it's like one thing that I intend to make sure happens on my watch, you know, is that I die with my boots on, working with a shovel in my hand and make things better. You know, so if y'all see me out there in the ditch dead, you know, I was working.
What happened to Eric?
He was out there working.
I won't see you in the ditch, brother. I'll have your 6.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Because it's time. I'm sorry, y'all. It's time.
Yes.
It's time.
Yes. But you know what? Investing in us, the Susu Revolution in Black Communities. Gregory D. Allen.
My brother.
I want to push you all. Go on over. Let me let you tell them. Where can they get a copy of this well of value?
That the book can be secured through Amazon.com or at Amazon.com, or you can go to the book website at iiususu.com and order a copy. I think that we have a price break at the book website, iiususu.com, but the price is slightly higher on Amazon. So if you send your order to iiususu, you'll get a discounted price, and I'll personally autograph the book for you.
Get that autograph. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. The Susu. You know that's going to be sticking with me all day, right?
Yeah. I'm going to get me a copy because y'all going to get tired of me saying it. It's time, y'all.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Well, before we get ready to close this segment out, because this won't be the last time, what one thing, Mr. Allen, you would want to share with the listening audience, one nugget that you can give them to chew on?
The one nugget that I would give them to chew on today is to don't listen to all of the negative voices that you hear all around you every day. The news media, the naysayers are telling you what you can't do, what you don't have the capacity to do. You are what you believe you can be. Mm-hmm. You just have to put your energies behind doing good things, the positive things, and everything else is going to work out. I put God first in my life. I would hope that you'd put him first in yours. And once you put God first and you decide which direction you want to go, he'll carry you the rest of the way. I also want to tell your viewers that you've got to be in the right mindset to make this process happen. I've written another book that is an ebook. It is called The Power of Positive Thinking. I want you to, if you're interested in getting a copy of that book, you can respond directly through the podcast. And I think that Angela and Coach Reed will tell you how you can do that. But I'm happy to send a free copy of that book, The Power of Positive Thinking, to all of your viewers, or as many of your viewers as that are interested in receiving that copy. Awesome. That's my gift to you and to the Sports Foundation Network.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been awesome.
Awesome. Coach Reed, you got anything?
I love everybody. You know, God is always first, and we keep God first, and everything else comes with that. So keep your head up, keep moving forward, get it by the inch, and not by the mile.
And guess what, Coach Reed?
Yes, ma'am.
We love them, and there's nothing that they can do about it.
Not a thing.
Nothing they can do about it. Well, I personally, I want to thank each and every one of you that decided to take the time to sit in and sup with us, along with Mr. Allen. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
For being here. Like I stated, it will not be the last time. Mm-hmm. He will be back. But I want to leave with you all today. I had you on my mind today. I think I sent something to Mr. Allen and Coach Reed earlier about the thermostat. Mm. So I want to leave you with a winning nugget for today. You be the thermostat in the room. When you walk in, you set the atmosphere. If it's no more than a smile or hello, how's your day, or how can I help you? Be the thermostat. Set that temperature, because you never know who you might be touching or affecting. This is your girl, Angela, right here on the Sports Foundation Network, along with my co-host, Eric Reed, Coach Reed, Senior.
Yes, ma'am.
And, of course, our special guest, Mr. Allen. We love you. And there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Thank
you. You stuck with us now. But thank you so much for tuning in. And guess what? We're going to see you all next week right here on the Sports Foundation Network, where all we do is win.
We are the lions. We are the chosen. We're going to shine.